Why is it possible that Charlie Kirk's assassination was a foreign intelligence hit? We're going to break down the psychology and the evidence of how foreign intelligence possibly carried out the Charlie Kirk assassination, blatantly in front of all of us. Now, let's get started.
And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth in June, and he said, "Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran." Very loudly. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that.
The Charlie Kirk assassination has many of the hallmarks of foreign intelligence involvement, and there's a major motive for at least one foreign nation to want to eliminate him.
Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran.
Not saying it's necessarily that nation, but there's at least one nation who sadly may have wanted Charlie Kirk gone.
Basically cut off our access to be able to get into that information. We still had a lot more leads to run down that pertained to some kind of a foreign nexus that we were stopped from investigating. That makes me furious that we're being blocked from that, and that we're not allowed to ask the question anymore. We're just not allowed to talk about it anymore. And I think that's absolute insanity.
Also, it's important to note that maybe the prosecution will present evidence in trial that indicates Tyler Robinson acted alone. However, if they are unable to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he acted alone, foreign intelligence may help explain what happened. Public hits by foreign intelligence are completely different than a classical murder because foreign intelligence intentionally creates confusion and diversion to fracture the investigation, manipulate public perception, and keep the true orchestrators hidden behind multiple layers of misdirection. Their hit operations are often orchestrated like a magic illusion, relying on diversion and psychological manipulation. Since foreign intelligence understands exactly how police investigate crimes, public assassinations can be designed to deliberately steer investigators down the wrong path. They also understand that law enforcement is generally trained to look for the simplest and most immediate explanation, making investigative responses highly predictable and therefore easier to anticipate, manipulate, and exploit. In this case, there's reports of clandestine planes, magic bullets, steel neck, no exit wound outside of the neck.
Pictures of him in the stairwell. I've always thought, well, how do you walk upstairs with this? It seems difficult, because I can't really bend my leg. So you kind of have to do a weird step up.
Disassembling it one more time, and just showing us.
So front action screw here.
So it still would not fit.
Impossibly transporting a rifle up the stairs. Police oddly found a 30-06 rifle not too far from the crime scene that is completely inconsistent with the wound of Charlie Kirk.
People literally thought it was like a firecracker. It was so soft. It wasn't large caliber. My brother and I had been around guns enough.
There was, of course, sound of gunfire at the event, but many people claim that was inconsistent with a 30-06 rifle going off.
It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering.
They just red light, almost if you were putting stuff into AI.
My first thought was, this is someone who doesn't speak English as their first language.
Odd text messages were allegedly being sent to his lover that sounded quite contrived.
You would follow up on those leads.
You would have to follow up on those leads.
But they shut them down.
Yes.
And that's a fact.
Mm-hmm. When word came out, thanks to Joe Kent, that he was not permitted to follow up on these leads. Well, call me a conspiracy theorist, but that's the only place I can go.
Are there any good answers to that question?
No. There's literally no reason why you wouldn't follow up on a lead.
We have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI, and we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out.
There's reports that investigating further in this assassination are being sandbagged.
Remember how he was engraving bullets?
There's oddly engraved rounds, and the alleged perpetrator was supposedly bragging about it.
Investigators now say the man who they initially thought was Charlie Kirk's assassin admitted to screaming that he was the gunman to allow the real shooter to get away.
There was originally a wacky old guy who was bragging that he did it while his pants were falling down.
It's a Mauser model vintage rifle that investigators say is so old they didn't even have a serial number on it, so they wouldn't have been able to track it down.
They released a picture of the rifle and it's way more modern. It's actually a modern Mauser.
The alleged murder weapon is an untraceable rifle.
The blast comes from here and it's aimed this way, and you see his whole shirt come up as if there's a blast underneath the shirt.
Wow. It's like this strange ripple through his shirt.
Very, very compelling argument that it was his his microphone pack underneath his shirt that blew up.
There's theories of an exploding lavalier microphone.
That was not an entry wound that we saw. We saw an exit wound. An entry wound doesn't look like that. An exit wound does.
Entrance wound that many believe looks more like an exit wound. Therefore, theories that Charlie was actually shot from behind. Reportedly odd movements by those in the crowd, and there's a lot more too.
The university is already making some changes. They're replacing the grass where Charlie Kirk was speaking with pavers.
The tent was right over in this area. It looked a lot different that day. This was all in grass.
No one's saying, of course, that every single one of these possibilities have equal validity. Nevertheless, there is a lot of oddity in this assassination. Subscribe for more.